At my father's retirement party, my uncle staggered to the podium and yelled, "Don't let him fool you. I was the one who laid off half the workers and blamed it on him." He laughed as if telling a great joke. What he didn't know was that several of those laid-off workers were watching the live broadcast. The clip made it onto the news the next morning, and by end of week, my uncle was being investigated by federal authorities. I've kept this inside for over a year. But now it feels right to finally tell it. My dad, Raymond Allen, gave everything to Lockridge Ironworks in Jeffersonville, Indiana. He started working there in the 80s. Back then it was all grit and sweat, and the pay wasn't great, but he stuck with it. He worked his way up the hard way, through busted knuckles and 70-hour weeks, one bad back injury, and a second mortgage he never told us about. When he finally made plant director, nobody said he didn't deserve it. He earned it. When he announced he was retiring last spring, it felt like the end of an era. The union guys respected him, even the ones who didn't always agree with him. So, my mom and I planned a retirement party. Nothing too flashy. We rented out a banquet room at a local hotel, invited close family, friends, a bunch of his former coworkers, and set up a live stream for old employees who had moved away. Dad didn't want a big fuss, but we figured he deserved one. Everything was going well. There were speeches, old stories, a slideshow of his early days at the plant, and even a surprise appearance by one of his old supervisors. My dad looked proud, maybe a little emotional, which was rare for him. Then Uncle Steve stood up. Steve is my dad's younger brother. He used to work in the corporate office at the same company. Real slick guy, always wore a suit, thought he was better than the rest of us. He wasn't close with our side of the family anymore, but he showed up. Maybe to be polite, or maybe just to show off. And he was drunk. Everyone saw it. He staggered up to the mic, drink in hand, slurring a little already. We all thought he was going to make a toast. Instead, he said this, "Don't let him fool you. I was the one who laid off half the workers and blamed it on him." Then he laughed.
Loud. Long.
Like he'd just cracked a joke that would kill at some Wall Street mixer. You could feel the air get sucked out of the room. I looked at my dad. His face went stiff. He didn't move. Didn't say a word. People weren't sure how to react. Some gave awkward laughs. Some looked at my dad, waiting for him to say it was just a joke. But he didn't. He just sat there, staring at his brother like he didn't recognize him. Now here's the part Steve didn't know, or forgot about. We had the whole thing on a live stream. About 40 people were watching from home, many of them former employees. A few of them were guys who'd been laid off during the 2019 cuts. Back then, it was called a necessary reduction. Nothing personal, they were told. Just business. And it was my dad's name on the memo. Guys like Dean Thomas. He'd been there 22 years. Got let go 2 months before his kid's surgery. Lost his health insurance. Had to sell his house and move in with his brother in Louisville. Or Mike Jacobs. He spiraled after the layoff. Started drinking. Marriage fell apart. They blamed my dad for all of it. He never defended himself. Just took it. Said it had to be done, and that was that. Now here was Steve, bragging like it was some hilarious joke.
Live.
On video. In front of everyone. That clip hit Facebook within an hour. Someone screen recorded it and uploaded it to a local Jeffersonville community page. It spread fast. By morning, the local station, WJKR, had a segment about it. They even used a clip from the party, with Steve's words playing on loop. By Thursday, the Department of Labor had started asking questions. They wanted to know what Steve meant, who authorized what, where the records were. They requested financial documents from the company. Whispers of severance fraud and labor code violations started floating around. But that was just the beginning. Because I wasn't done. After that video went viral, Steve disappeared for a few days. No calls. No texts. I wasn't surprised. He always ran when things got tough. When his first business flopped in the early 2000s, he packed up and moved to Chicago like it never happened. Same thing when he got divorced. Now he was probably hiding out, hoping it would all blow over. But it wasn't going to blow over. I made sure of that. See, My dad never kept records at home. He was old school. Trusted too many people. But I didn't. The night after the party, I went into his garage and dug through the boxes he brought home from his office. Most of it was old reports, meeting notes, boring stuff. But then I found a folder labeled 2019 Downsizing, Steve C. Inside were printed emails. My dad had printed them out, probably because he didn't trust Steve's word. One of those emails changed everything. It was from Steve to my dad, dated July 10th, 2019. It said, "We need to push these layoffs through fast. Let the union boys think it was your call. I'll handle the shareholders." There it was. Written proof that Steve orchestrated the layoffs and told my dad to take the blame. I felt sick. My dad had carried that guilt for years. People cursed his name. Some wouldn't even speak to him anymore. And he just accepted it. Because he thought protecting his brother was more important.
Screw that.
I made copies of the emails. I scanned them, saved them to a USB, and emailed them anonymously to 3 places. The Department of Labor investigator handling the case, the local news station, and a reporter at the Courier-Journal in Louisville. I also mailed a copy to every one of the guys who had been laid off in 2019. No note. Just the printouts. I wanted them to know the truth, and I wanted Steve to feel the ground start to crack beneath him. By the end of the following week, the story had grown. Now it wasn't just about a drunk idiot spouting off at a party. Now it was a federal investigation into mismanagement, fraudulent layoffs, possible pension fund abuse. Steve tried to play innocent. He gave some crap interview where he said it was a misunderstanding and that he'd been joking. But it was too late. Once the emails got out, the game changed. People started coming forward, former finance guys from the company, HR staff, even a few board members. One of them confirmed that Steve had set the whole thing up to protect bonuses for upper management. Millions were saved by laying off the workers, and that money went right into the executive pockets, including his. Meanwhile, my dad was getting calls from reporters, lawyers, even old coworkers. Some apologized. Some thanked him. He didn't say much. Just nodded and said, "I did what I had to."
But me?
I wasn't done yet. Because there was one more thing I'd found. Steve had started a consulting company after he left Lockridge. It was small, but he'd gotten a few contracts with other manufacturers around the Midwest. I found out he was supposed to land a big deal with a steel company in Ohio. The signing meeting was set for early June, so I sent them the emails too. Then I waited. That Ohio company, Tri-Ridge Steel, had no idea what they were walking into with Steve. Their CEO, a guy named Wallace Pierce, was big on reputation and integrity. I knew that because I read every press release on their site. So when I sent those emails, I included a short message, no return address. You're about to partner with a man who lied, stole, and destroyed lives. Read the attachments and decide if that's who you want representing your brand. I never heard back, but I didn't need to. 2 days before Steve was supposed to fly to Cleveland for the signing, Tri-Ridge announced a sudden change in contract negotiations. They didn't name names, but Steve's LinkedIn went dead the same day. His consulting company's website went offline the next. But that wasn't the twist. The real twist came when someone I didn't expect showed up at our front door. Mike Jacobs, the guy who lost his job and his marriage after the 2019 layoffs. He looked rough, grayer, older than I remembered. He held an envelope in his hand. I opened the door, unsure what he wanted. "I came to give this to your dad," he said. I told him Dad was out fishing with a friend. He nodded, stepped back, and handed me the envelope. "I read the emails," he said. "You sent those." I hesitated, then nodded. "You saved more people than you know," he said, voice low. "We're organizing a class action. Some of the guys, they want your dad to be part of it. But he probably won't. Doesn't seem the type." He was right. My dad would never join a lawsuit, even if he was the biggest victim. But then Mike added, "Steve's lawyer's been reaching out to some of us, trying to make deals behind the scenes. NDA money. Real hush-hush." That's when I knew Steve wasn't just scared. He was cornered. And now he was trying to buy his way out. I took the envelope and thanked Mike. He left without saying anything else. Inside the envelope were old pay stubs, memos, and one typed letter from Steve himself, signed, offering Mike a small cash payout in exchange for silence. The date was recent. 2 days ago, which meant Steve knew the class action was coming, and he was desperate to stop it. And it got even messier, because a week later, another envelope arrived. This one wasn't from a worker. It was from someone inside the company still employed. No return address. Inside, internal financials from 2019 and 2020. Pages and pages of them. Someone had pulled records showing executive bonuses had increased by 31% the same quarter those layoffs happened. And Steve's name was on all of it. At that point, I realized this had grown way beyond family drama. Steve wasn't just a bad brother. He was a corrupt executive, a liar, a thief. And now his own company had people willing to turn on him. But something else happened too, something I didn't see coming.
My dad started changing.
He stopped going fishing, started reading more, started taking phone calls in the garage, long calls, quiet ones. Sometimes I'd see him staring out the window at night, holding that folder of emails in his lap. He looked like a man at war with himself. Then one night, he said something I'll never forget. I should have stopped him a long time ago. I didn't say anything, just waited. I thought I was doing the right thing, keeping the family together. But I let him ruin lives.
He finally looked at me.
I'm done protecting him. That was when I knew my dad wasn't going to sit this one out anymore. A few days after that night, my dad called me into the garage. He was sitting at his old workbench with a small box in front of him. Inside were documents I'd never seen before, old records from his time at the plant, some handwritten notes, and something else, a voice recorder. He pressed play. Steve's voice came through, clear as day. Ray, you take the heat now, we both walk out fine. I promise. In 6 months I'll move on, you'll retire, and nobody'll remember any of it. It was recorded in 2019. My dad had kept it all this time. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe because deep down he knew it had come to this. You going to the lawyers? I asked. He shook his head.
No.
I'm going to the press.
And he did.
The Courier-Journal ran the story first. Then WDRB picked it up. Retired plant director breaks silence. Brother behind layoffs. Bonus fraud. They used the audio, the emails, the internal financials, all of it. It blew up. Bigger than I thought it would. Steve tried to get ahead of it. Released some garbage statement about being misunderstood and accused my dad of forging the tape. But it didn't matter. The evidence was too strong. The class action lawsuit moved forward, now joined by over 40 former workers. My dad agreed to testify. Then came the big one. The Department of Justice opened a formal case.
Fraud.
Misuse of pension funds. Securities violations.
White fraud.
It stacked up fast. Too fast for Steve to run from. He was arrested 3 weeks later at his condo in Indianapolis. They walked him out in cuffs. That clip ran side by side with the one from the retirement party, from him laughing like a man with no soul. They say he's facing up to 20 years. Maybe more. But here's the truth most people didn't see. My dad broke too. Quietly. After the court hearing started, he stopped talking much. He'd stare at the TV but not really watch it. I think he blamed himself for everything. For letting Steve get away with it for so long. For not speaking up in 2019. For letting his own name get dragged through the mud. I told him over and over it wasn't his fault. That he was trying to protect people. But I could tell part of him didn't believe it. As for me, I didn't come out clean either. The truth is, I didn't do this for justice. Not really. I did it for revenge. I wanted to see Steve suffer. I wanted his world burned down.
And it worked.
But it came at a cost. My mom couldn't sleep. My dad stopped going out. Our name was in the papers, on every local station. Some family members cut us off. Said we aired too much dirty laundry. And me? Some nights I wonder if I pushed too far. If I should have let the lawyers handle it instead of leaking documents, sending emails in the dark. digging through years of pain just to make Steve bleed. But then I remember Mike Jacobs, Dean Thomas, all the men who sat in court and cried when the truth finally came out. I remember the look on my dad's face when he heard someone say, "We owe you an apology." I remember that moment. And I know this. Steve destroyed lives. He laughed at the damage. So I made damn sure the last laugh belonged to us. And it wasn't funny. Not even a little.